Hi, I'm Paul Wilson. This is Being a Dad and Becoming an Adult. When you grow up in the Midwest, especially in a small town like I did, you end up going out to a lot of bonfires and a lot of parties held in the middle of a field or cornfield or whatever. So where I first met my fiance was when I was early teens, probably mid-teens would be more accurate. One of my buddies lived down the street, had a small farmhouse, about 5 acres, surrounded by cornfields. And it made a great place to have a party. In the back corner of the lot, there was a low spot, and that's where we'd build up the bonfire, and then have a keg, sitting in a cooler or whatever. Everybody would just pile up around it. Since you were out in the middle of nowhere, we always had to drive a car down next to the party area, I guess you would say. And I don't know why, but my giant piece of shit 97 Grand Marquis was always the car of choice. Probably because I didn't care if it ran all night and sat there and idled. I didn't care if it got stuck in the mud. We'd pull it out with a tractor. It was just the beater, and I had enough of a stereo in it that you could hear it across the fire. So we found that people from all sorts of towns started showing up as we started having parties more regularly. I'd say this is pretty normal if you're in any sort of small town, especially a farming community like ours, where you might only know one or two people from the town 20 minutes away, and they're going to end up bringing 10 people every time. So anyways, one night we're out there, and one of the girls we had met from a town down the street brings a bunch of her girlfriends. And as they got out of the car, all the guys pay attention, right? 4 or 5 girls hop out of the car to party. We all notice them right away. And just immediately I spot the one that you could just tell has an attitude. You could tell by looking at her. She's wearing a flat brim ball cap and, sexy everything else, and just screams she's gonna be a handful to deal with. And of course, I have to talk to her. So after introductions and a few, solo cups floating around, we finally see that the music's hard to hear. Apparently the later it gets, the harder it is to hear it, even though it's playing at the same volume as parties do go. So she starts asking me if we can turn the volume up anymore, kind of condescendingly, as I was a cocky teenager, tell her like, oh hon, if we turn it up anymore, it's just gonna be static. She looks at me as though I'm the dumbest man alive and says, well, can't you just turn the bass down? And I about lost my mind. I mean, how dare somebody tell me how to tune my stereo? And before I can even start yelling, she jumps in the driver's seat and starts fidgeting with the buttons, and then turns to me and says, how do I do it? So, being a teenager, I of course just do it. And it works, which I won't admit it works, right? I still to this day won't admit it works. But, so the music's louder, and the girls are dancing, everybody's having fun. I keep trying to flirt with her, and she keeps kind of just blowing me off, just no real interest. So the night goes on, and we talk and flirt and this and that. Get her phone number, which she never responds to a call. Within a few weeks later, months and years go by, and we see each other. We hang out at a lot of parties together, stuff like that. We're mutual friends and groups and whatnot, so we run into each other on a fairly regular basis. A couple years down the road, my buddy ends up getting tickets to go see Chris Rock live. It has awesome killer seats, front row mezzanine. So we're on the edge of the balcony. They're phenomenal seats. He's like, hey man, I got a deal to get 4 of them. You think you could find a date? I'm like, yeah, not a problem. I'm a pimp, which I was not. This time I think I'm early 20s, 21, 22, something like that. So I had still, throughout all these years, been talking to Joanna on and off, my fiance now. So I call her up and conjure up and come together with a great idea that I'm going to ask her out, and she'll go with me and we'll have a great time. And yeah, I was wrong. Yeah. She says yes, and then the day of calls and tells me that she's sick and can't go, which is absolutely not. Nobody figured out they were sick an hour before they're supposed to get picked up. So I go, I think I ended up bringing a buddy of mine with me to go see Chris Rock, who was hilarious, had a great time. Years later, fast forward, I'm probably mid-20s, 24, 25, somewhere in there, say 25, 26, and living with a couple of buddies, and Joanna's with a girlfriend who keeps stopping by the house. So I see her once a month, once every other month, whatever. And she's hanging out one night. We're getting along really well again, and I'm just a glutton for punishment. You know, what can I say? I knew I had to go on a date with this girl. So I asked her out, and the rest was history. That time she actually showed up. If you enjoyed what you just saw, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel.